Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's urgent webinar. We are joined this evening by our panelists from Nisga'a government. We have Mr. Edward Desson, who is the Fisheries Manager with the Nisga'a Fisheries and Wildlife Department, and Mr. Harry Nice Sr., who is the Director of Fisheries and Wildlife. And we have also the chair of the Nisga'a Fish and Wildlife Committee, Mr. Charles Morvan, and of course, Madam President, Eva Clayton, who will be each providing updates and information to the Nisga'a Nation this evening. Undoubtedly, there's much concern and our citizens wanting to know what the status is of the Nisga'a fishery, given the low stocks that we've been seeing this year. So undoubtedly there's a lot of questions, and our president and our chair and our Nisga'a Fish and Wildlife staff are here to provide you a message this evening and to provide you an update on what the fishery looks like going forward. Welcome to our attendees this evening. We're currently at 45 attendees. To get our program started, I would like to ask the kindness of our Smagat Nass, Mr. Harry Nice Sr., if he would open us in a word of prayer, keeping in mind those that have lost loved ones, are grieving, and are battling illness in the nation. Smagat.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Ms. Barrowheads. Had get some more loot at some lacha. Dog something else on my yuxat gonna will that cordum double for you will access skis on kayak some listens. When that lawn named them in the end class. I'm going up the Benediki, the Saxor to guard and go on the lower ski. I'm going up some more like a one night athlete. Some more get high next to me. You will look in it, need them in the empty. Some more get and sad out that named them in the family. The Lord will save named them in the equity. Find this what them will needs scored lumps and market. This and good when I was hello Markham to Jesus Christ and one will. Amston will.
Thanks, Harry. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, this is an urgent webinar that has been scheduled by the Nisga'a government executive to provide our citizens an update, primarily our fishers and our harvesters that are wanting an update and information on the status of the fishery on the Nass River. So with that, just a bit of an overview on our agenda. We will invite Harry Nice Sr. and Edward Desson to give us an overview and an update on sort of a high-level overview of the monitoring and the stocks and the status of them, and how we came to the decision to close the fishery. The fishery is currently closed, and Harry and Edward will provide us sort of the scientific explanation of why this has come to be. And then we will get an update from Charles as the chairperson for the Nisga'a Fish and Wildlife Committee, and our president, Eva Clayton, will then close with her closing comments in this webinar. Pending our time, we will also have the opportunity to entertain question and answer period. You are participating from a computer or your phone. You have the option of entering a question via the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. So just keep that in mind as we go through this presentation this evening. So with that, I will welcome Harry and Edward, if they will lead off our presentation this evening with your update.
Thank you, Bobby, and welcome everyone, and to our colleagues on the air as well. A wonderful mechanism we have going here to reach those of you on air. And we have been managing our fishery for some time, and it started out very well back in the 90s with respect to the runs. The sockeye and the Chinook were very healthy during the 90s. And then during the start of 2000, we had our treaty. Unfortunately, the depletion started to show itself with respect to the stocks returning back to the watershed of the Nass Valley. We manage that with Fisheries and Oceans. We do have a joint fisheries management committee established by our treaty, the Nisga'a Treaty, and we do follow some of the records that need to be recorded with the data. Edward will go through with that, but for the most part, we were very fortunate that in the early years that we took management, it was a healthy system. But the environment has changed, as we all know. The weather has gotten warmer. Our glaciers, as many of you probably saw in the very early days, the glaciers were feeding the water and then cooling off the water for our salmon. And now we're finding that has most of it's gone. And in the last 3 years in particular, that had changed very drastically. We've saw very low water on the Nass, and then that has impacted on the salmon. And this year has been one of our worst recording. So I'll have Edward go by with the figures right now where we're at. Edward.
Thank you, Harry. So as Harry mentioned, we're battling climate change amongst other things, and so we've had an extremely poor 4 years in a row now. We've had poor numbers of sockeye return, and I've reported in community consultations about the poor Chinook numbers. So on July 10th, we released a message to the nation about a closure of a Chinook salmon fishery, closed for the rest of the season due to low returns. And then in addition, the closure of the sockeye fishery for 1 week. Things did not improve at all over the course of the week, and the fishery forced us to close the fishery for another week until we were able to see some better numbers. And unfortunately, that's not happening. Our fish wheel tagging operations provide the numbers necessary to make these in-season projections, and they've proven to be consistently accurate for more than 25 years. So what we're seeing is we're pretty accurate at identifying the run. So the current projected total return to Canada for sockeye is 246,000, and that compares to a long-term average of 548,000. So we're talking half here, and it's just not a good number. And the total return to Canada estimate for Chinook is 18,000, and that long-term average is 30,000. So those projections really forced our hand to look at management intervention, and that's what created the closure to the fishery. As of July 23rd, an estimated 82,000 or almost 83,000 sockeye have passed the fish wheels, but we estimate that over 54% of the run has already been by, and then an estimated 6,800 Chinook have passed upriver with 93% of the run in. So our annual escapement targets are 200,000 for sockeye and 13,000 for Chinook. So as you can see, we're way behind on these numbers. And these escapement targets were set to ensure that enough fish reach the spawning grounds every year to provide for healthy runs into the future. So, we don't just rely on the fish wheel data alone. Further evidence of the poor runs is the count so far at spawning areas. So we're looking at Mesiadin, and 912 sockeye have now gone through the fishway so far, been actually counted. And the average for this date is 39,600. So not even close. It's a real scary number. And The video weir at Quinnigees is a little bit early to predict anything, but another thing of concern is Gingit Creek, where recent returns in the last couple of years have been over 20,000 sockeye, and they're one of the first sockeye stocks to arrive. So we should have seen them long before now, and we've only seen just a handful of sockeye to Gingit Creek. So some real scary things happening out there. And my final numbers would be that at current run sizes, Nisga'a entitlement targets under the Nisga'a final agreement are 24,000 for sockeye salmon and 3,800 for Chinook. So our estimated harvest to date are 24,196 sockeye and 52 or 5,300 Chinook. So we are over the entitlement under the treaty so far, and with a lot of season to go. So these are the numbers that we look at when we made the decision to close the fisheries. Thank you.
Great. Thank you to Edward and Harry for that update. And again, I just pulled up on my screen here the Nass River Salmon Stock Assessment update that is provided by the Nisga'a Fish and Wildlife Department. This is dated today. And these are made available on our website, I believe weekly, right, Edward?
Yes, actually probably 3 times a week, Bobby.
Right, okay. So in addition to updates like this and the written updates that the Fish and Wildlife Department provides, the actual data is available for citizens to see here. Now just, we've had some questions come in already, and these are operational, so I will refer them to both you and Harry. The first is, how great of a role does overfishing by commercial operations weigh in on this issue? And the second is there a coordinated effort currently being made between the Nisga'a Nation and other coastal peoples when it comes to achieving conservation goals? Really, that is at the heart of the issue is conservation, right? So would you like to weigh in on that?
With respect to the commercial fishers, we play a part with respect to fisheries and oceans. They do have other committees that review data from that, and some of those players in that group are industry folks that run the fish wires and canneries and such. So we work with them and then provide the information that you just saw, and they see that, and we coordinate and discuss with them and we have meetings about 3-4 times a year, twice early in the year and twice after the season's over, and so we are very much involved, and they have been advised of where we are and are supporting where we are today with the closure.
So as far as an opening happening, it would happen fairly quickly if we see the numbers, and we have to see the numbers. We have to know that we've had enough fish get to the spawning grounds, and then the decision would be made after that. But as I say, right now it's remaining low, but if the fish happen to come through, keep coming through into August, and then we're hopeful that there'll be some opportunities after.
Okay, great. Thank you to both Edward and Harry. We continue to see questions rolling in, and again to our attendees, you're welcome to pose questions to our panelists. And if you're just joining us, we are joined by President Eva Clayton, Chair of the Fish and Wildlife Committee and Chief Councillor of Gideon Charles Morvan, and the Director of Fish and Wildlife, Harry Knight Sr., and the Fisheries Manager in the Fish and Wildlife Department, Edward Desson. Both Ed and Harry just provided us an overview of the update on the stock assessment that resulted in the closure of the Nass River fishery, which undoubtedly is causing much concern for those of us, families that rely on the annual harvest for food fishing. So I'll resort now to Charles and Eva for their comments on this issue. Charles, the Chair of the Fish and Wildlife Committee, welcome this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. And first of all, I'd just like to welcome each and every one of you that have tuned into the webinar in regards to the Nass salmon. And just wanted to let you know that we did have executive today, and we did have a long discussion in regards to the salmon and in regards to the closures and also the concerns that we've been receiving in regards to other people that may be fishing our fish in the Nass. And the executive did pass a resolution today that NLG will be writing a letter to the Department of Fisheries and Oceans and in regards to total closure to the Nass River in regards to salmon fishing in the upper Nass and lower Nass. And also at the end of the day, we decided as an executive that there is going to be a letter going out to our neighbors to the north and to the south of us that the Nass is going to be closed to everyone. So no one will be allowed to fish until further notice, until we see improvements to our fish stocks. And the indications to date in any fish that are coming on the outer parts of the mouth of the Nass is not that good as well, as the numbers in Alaska aren't that good, and those that are going to be coming to the Nass, there's no indication of huge numbers of sockeye coming. So there is a lot of concern, and I think one of the things that we haven't discussed is in 2015 there was this thing they called the blob, where the temperatures out in the ocean were extremely high, and their survival rate for all of the salmon that were heading out that year weren't good. And I think we need to have that discussion because this may be the effects that we're feeling right now, this year from what happened in 2015. So I think we need a lot more information, and I think we need to have these discussions more, especially how critical it is. And we did hear the concerns of the citizens, especially those that have not gotten salmon to date, and we need to figure out a plan on how we address that issue as well. So those are my comments for now, and I will be going through the questions, and I did see there was a question in regards to coho, and we just got the numbers, and the coho are well below the average as well. I think there was 86 that have gone through Gitwin-Sith, and average for that time is 200. So it's already starting low, and we're going to have to monitor that close as well. So that is all I have, and I thank you for listening, and I look forward to answering the questions as I go through them. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Charles. And this is an interesting question. and perhaps it's for Harry or Edward. And it's how far down does the closure go past King Gulf? Is it all of area 312?
Yes, it's all of Area 312. In fact, the what we've decided, and we manage the whole Nass River watershed, so that's all close. That's our traditional lands.
Great, thank you. And again, another question about so why are they allowing the fish to shoot up to the spawning grounds and they're still being caught by other nations? Charles, I think you alluded to how it's jointly managed and monitored. So did you want to touch on that?
Yeah, I think one of the things, and I know we're going to be holding our treaty partners to task on this part in regards to how they manage other nations that also benefit from the Nass River, and that they haven't been enforcing that, and we need to hold them to task. And I think that's one of the things that we're going to be doing, and we're also going to be requesting a meeting with the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans as soon as we possibly can to address that issue as well. And we find it troubling that we have people from other nations that sit on the Nass Watershed Committee, and we need to know why, and we've objected to that, and it still continues that we have our neighboring nations from the north having a member on the Nass Watershed Committee when that shouldn't happen. So there is a lot that we have to do, and we have to hold our treaty partners into account as well, that they're in this with us and they should be doing all that they can to protect our salmon stocks. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Charles. So here's another question about enforcement. Perhaps Harry or Ed would like to touch on this. What is being done about our Nisga'a fishers who are, we're selling fish to other nations while many families have no fish? And another is in relation to that, how is the fishery being enforced?
We received information that on that very matter today. It's the first time that we have seen it, and it was as many know, it was on Facebook. There is an investigation happening, and our players in that are the Nisga'a enforcement folks, and so I can't say very much about it because it is under investigation currently, and so we'll have to wait and see how they fare with respect to that investigation.
Bobby, if I could speak further to that.
Sure.
We did get a report at the end of the day, and in regards to what was been discussed in regards to people fishing during the closure of the Nass. And it was reported to us that that fishing that did happen did not occur in the Nass area, in the lower part of the Nass. And also in regards to some other information that is being forwarded to the Department of Fisheries and Oceans for further investigation into that matter. So our enforcement did their due diligence, and now they've handed it over to the Department of Fisheries and Oceans to do their due diligence as well. Thank you.
Also, Bobby, there's been reports of fishing upriver, and specifically at Nisga'a, and we have 2 biologists working up there. So we have somebody there every day. They monitor the fishway, but they also see what's going on down below the fishway. And so far, they have not reported any fishing there this year.
Okay, great, thank you. And again, we have 97 attendees this evening. No doubt all eager to know if there will be a fishery. So let's answer that question. Again, we touched on it here and there, but this was a question, again, that was posed, and they say thank you for the update. By the sounds of it, our river is closed indefinitely. Is that the case? If you want to touch on that again.
Currently, as the chair has mentioned, and Edward, is closed until further notice. So it's not closed indefinitely. I mentioned our president asked that during our conference this afternoon, asked the same question about is this over? And I did mention, we note that in the last couple of years, and last year in particular, sockeye were still noted in our river mid-August to end of August. So I'm hopeful that that they will show up, and then I think that that's a sign that we're going to see, as Edward said, when the fish wheel data is showing increase. Certainly, we'll move as quick as we can to notify members about anything that changes.
Great, thank you for that, Harry. And that's a good segue into bringing Madam President into the conversation. President Clayton, at Executive this afternoon, there was a very good discussion amongst the Executive on this issue, and the message was clear that we needed to provide an update to our citizens, and that you provided some compelling comments at Executive. So welcome to the conversation, and I welcome you now to provide your message.
Thank you, Bobby. Good evening to members of the nation. Thank you to the panel for your presentation. On behalf of the Executive, we are very concerned about the state of the fisheries on the Nass River. One of the concerns that we have is not only related to climate change, but the returns are very bleak. I listened to it with interest this afternoon that the returns from outside the Nass and those returns from Alaska are just not coming in. And so we have a management team, a fisheries management team that is faced to make very important decisions, unfortunate decisions that must be made based on the Nass River stock assessment reports that are received on a weekly basis. And I think it's important to know that these are not light decisions that are made by our management team. And it's important for that to be understood, while at the same time, Nisga'a government is very concerned that members of our nation still have not received their fish to preserve for the winter supply. And so I'm hopeful, I'm very hopeful based on the Director of Fisheries comment that it's not indefinite, depending on, however, on the stock assessment, that it's until further notice. The Executive has taken action today, and you've heard the chairman of the Fisheries Committee mention some of them. And thank you, Charles. There will be a press release issued tomorrow on the closure of the Nass River. That will go far and wide. The letter to the Department of Fisheries in Olson will also go out calling for the closure of the Nass River and the watershed. You've heard the Director of Fisheries and Wildlife mention the area 312. We are calling for a closure of 312 to the commercial fisheries based on the stock assessment reports that our departments receive. We are also seeking a meeting, as Charles has mentioned, a meeting with the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans to express the concerns of the government, which is ultimately your concerns, the concerns of the people, to see how we can move forward with the kind of issues that face the government as we continue to address these very serious concerns. We are looking at a glimmer of hope for our people to be able to get their fish. And in closing, I ask that each of you understand that these decisions are certainly not easy to make. They are not made on the whim of just because we want to close it. It's based on stock assessment reports, and the stock assessment reports we've been receiving are really bleak. So bleak that our management team has had to call for a closure of the fisheries. In closing, I thank you for your understanding. We will continue to work towards a solution for this. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for that, Madam President. So I'm just scanning the questions that have come in. So here's one in relation to the stocks. Even if the numbers are good further in the season, would they consider keeping the inland sale and commercial sales closed for the season to benefit salmon stock? Perhaps that's one for Ed or Harry.
I was trying to find my button here, sorry.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, the IS definitely at this point in time, unfortunately, will have to remain closed. The numbers, as Edward has mentioned, are just not collating with respect to the where we're at with respect to any kind of IS or marine opening.
Great, thank you for that, Harry. So here's another. Oh, this was just a further comment in relation to the Area 312. So I think it should go past Area 312, should be Tracy Bay to Work channel, because of all the sockeye travel in Nass, and we have no enforcement on the waters down here. That's just a further comment.
We have a relationship with Fisheries and Oceans, as mentioned by all of us here, and Fisheries have not made any announcements for any kind of openings. And indeed, there have been a few, excuse me, openings, but not of any great nature. But in where our migration routes, yes, you are correct with respect to those areas of Wales Island and to the southern end of Pierce. And certainly our treaty boundary is the middle of Pierce, bottom end of Pierce Island, cutting across to Somerville Island. That's the line. And certainly we work with Fisheries and Oceans with respect to when the migration is in trouble, which it is now. We ask for their support, and they have done so to date.
Okay, thank you, Harry. Here's another couple of questions. Are we going to be able to fish some coho And another further question is, do we have statistics on what is harvested at the spawning grounds throughout the years and how closely are they monitored upriver?
Ed?
So the trouble with fishing coho, and it's the same problem we've had over the last few years with sail fisheries. The sockeye are coming in, trickling in so late into August, they're overlapping with the coho. So we can't have a coho opening without hitting a bunch of sockeye. So that's the danger there. You know, possibly if the coho are still strong, the late season coho, especially on the coast, once we know all of our sockeye have come through, there may be some opportunities down there. But again, we have to manage based on how many sockeye that we can get through. And sorry, Bobby, what was the second part to that question?
Just a sec. Do we have stats on what is harvested at the spawning grounds throughout the years and how closely are they monitored upriver?
So we don't presently have the statistics from what is taken upriver by other nations, and that is one of the matters before the dispute resolution, I believe.
Okay, great, thanks. And there's another in relation to salmon eggs. Does fisheries management still take salmon eggs and fertilize them in creeks to help maintain the salmon numbers?
No, we have not done that for some years. The hatchery down in Kincolith closed in 2009 due to a cut in funding from DFO and a flood that ruined some of the facilities. And we haven't had the funding to look at it again. So at present, no. And really, we think that our reproduction in river and in our spawning grounds is pretty good. It's the ocean conditions that are the problem right now.
Okay, excellent, thank you. So with that, I would welcome our panel to provide some closing commentary. We did get a number of questions in, and I hope we tackled most of them. And a lot of them were related to each other. But at this time, we have recorded each of your questions and will provide further answers down the road. So with that, I would like to welcome our panelists to provide closing comments at this time. Perhaps starting with Edward and Harry.
Thanks, Bobby. All I would say is that we have the best set of technicians in the entire country. We're proud of the work that they do, and we are on top of the numbers. And as the numbers come in, the moment that we see an uptick, you know, we'll let the nation know. And we really hope and pray that we'll have the chance, or the nation will have the chance to go out and fish for food.
I'm just in support of Edward. Yes, Edward included with our senior management, which is been going on. And for your information, this is the first season, and albeit it's due to COVID, that we have an all Nisga'a team, pretty much an all Nisga'a team as technicians on our fish wheel program, and it's a wonderful thing to see, and the hard work that they're doing under leadership of Edward and other team leaders that we have on the river. So it's very much one of those work relationships and in-season work that they're doing. It's amazing what they've come to do, and they're doing it rain or shine sort of thing on the weekends. Obviously that's what the work it counts on is that they do it on the time that the fish are running. So that's really, the commitment is there, and I'm really proud of them as well. Thank you.
Great, thank you for that, Harry. And we did receive a comment from Richard Alexander that I'll read, because this further supports the stock assessment data. So to support the discussion is the run and total return to Canada projections present mean early and late run projections. If the run is later, which we hope, then we have a chance to reach enough fish to get to the spawning grounds, which will protect the population's returns in the future for 4 to 5 years. Let's hope fish come in and get more fish upriver to the spawning grounds. Although Alaska catches are poor, Bristol Bay in the north started poorly and is currently up to 55 million salmon returns and exceeded all escapement goals and preseason projections. Not to give a sense of positive hope, but let's see if the fish return in larger numbers and give us some hope of a larger run to come. By conserving now, then, the nation is ensuring enough fish to the spawning grounds. So again, that important message of why fisheries management and the government have made the difficult decision for the closure is conservation. So with that, I will now welcome the chair of the Nisga'a Fisheries and Wildlife Committee, Mr. Charles Morvan, to provide your closing comments.
Thank you. And once again, also thank you to those that have attended online, and also those who have asked questions, and those questions that didn't get answered today. We do have them recorded, and we'll do our best to get those questions answered that didn't get answered tonight. And I think I'm looking at going through some of the questions, and there was a question on what are we going to do with those that are planning a protest fishery for tomorrow. I think it's important that our citizens don't take that route based on information that you may or may not have seen on the social media in regards to people fishing in the upper part of the Nass, or those that may have been selling fish after the closure. As I did mention earlier, our enforcement officers have been doing that investigation, and they have gotten that information in that regard, and they're also forwarding that information onto the Department of Fisheries and Oceans for further investigation into that matter. And I think it's important that those, especially those that hold senior names within our nation, that they don't lead such a thing such as a protest fishery, because we're doing our best to try to conserve the stocks for the future, and right now it's not looking too good. And so I just ask that if you were planning on having that you don't, that you decline from doing that tomorrow. And I've been talking with some Nisga'a citizens, and they are wanting to go off for themselves up to the upper part of the Nass to see for themselves exactly what is going on up there or what is not going on up there. And I myself, as the chair for Nisga'a Fish and Wildlife, I myself want to see that as well. And I may plan to go up there on Sunday to have a look, to make sure that people aren't doing unauthorized fishing on the Nass area during this closure, which we put forward. And if anyone wishes to join me, feel free. So that is all I have to say, and I look forward to us having more of these discussions with you and being able to answer as many questions as we can going forward in regards to our fishery. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Charles. We'll now welcome Madam President, Eva Clayton, if you have closing comments to provide.
Thank you, Bobby. And thank you to our citizens who tuned in this evening. Thank you to Bobby, you did a great job facilitating. Thank you to Destiny for making the arrangements for the webinar. And thank you very much to the panel. You all did a great job, a job well done. I want to encourage our citizens to stay informed about this very important matter. And we will take a look at how we can keep you informed about this. And if this is a good venue, then it may be a venue for perhaps another report to our citizens on fisheries following our requests to DFO and to the minister on a meeting with her. I want to further encourage our citizens to not only stay informed, but to ask questions. And I want to make the statement, if I may, that Facebook is not the official communication tool for members of our government. So it'd be great if our citizens can reach out to your elected representatives. Lobby your elected representatives to ask questions, because that's the only way that you can get information when it's related to government and related to issues that may affect you. And I want to assure the citizens that Nisga'a government will do everything in its power to take a look at that glimmer of hope. And I want to encourage each of us to keep that glimmer of hope alive, to help our people fill their freezers for the winter. In closing, I want to make the statement that to the people that be blessed, stay safe, and stay healthy. Thank you.
Madam President. Thank you for that very important message. And thank you to our participants this evening. I think we've reached upwards of 103, and we're currently at 86. So we did record this webinar. So we will be editing it and making it available on our website at nisgaanation.ca. So if you know of friends or family or colleagues that didn't have the opportunity to participate this evening, just inform them to look out on our website, and they can view it at a later date. And also an informal announcement that the executive today decided that we will proceed with the Special Assembly of the Nisga'a Nation virtually at the end of September. And it will be more than likely via this platform, Zoom. So again, I would encourage you, if you know family or friends that may not be familiar with Zoom, that they download it if you're on a phone or on your laptop to get familiar with it, so that you can participate in our week-long 5-day assembly at the end of September. So with that, thank you again for your participation on this very important matter. The numbers of individuals participating definitely shows that this is a common concern to all of us, and we're all hopeful that those numbers turn out for us this season and in the years to come for our future. So with that, I would like to welcome Director Harry Nice, Samaga Nass, if he will now close us in a word of prayer.
Thank you, Bobby. Just bow our heads and our hearts. Harakkat maatludat som gachtol somni la ma yuksat kuna list yuklas skilhan skaliak som listens. Dog somni diki and from namdi panis the slash will I double on. And when no some get panis what one need men gan and my renachlam. Ook am warm me into sector geworden en geworden dan sloot ook steeds de laagte akkat geworden is dat op zeep en dan akkat het op nedi en dan ama salam ama yuksa ama saskit en wel is een met nou was allemaal Jesus Christ en wel Amsterdam.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Good night.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Night, everyone.